What's going on, guys? It is the Zoomer Value Investor here to talk to you guys today about AbCellera stock. Now, we look at this, and ever since the IPO of this stock, December 11th, 2020, 90% drop on this stock. Quite crazy, because when you actually compare it to S&P 500, even all the tumultuousness the markets have been in from 2020 to 2023, S&P still dropped about 10% plus gains since then. So this stock has definitely been getting hammered. So I saw some viewers here wrote some comments about AbCellera, how I feel, just my confidence on the stock, especially after the Q2 update. I definitely know why they're asking about that. Very interesting update in Q2 recently dropped here. Really interesting what this user here commented about AbCellera 8 months ago, talking about the FDA news that dropped. Now, this was, of course, talking about the bamlanivimab news. Now, this was the time I've been most agreed on the stock, November 2022. My cost average, personally, I have a very ancillary position in my portfolio. It's about 1% of my portfolio. My cost average is around $9 per share. Now, this is the most green I've been, and this is around the time the news dropped, December, January. And it basically was the FDA Thanos snapping almost. The bamlanivimab drug, the huge golden goose of profitability for AbCellera. Thanos snapped it out of emergency use authorization for CV-19. Now, this is why the AbCellera company does not have a PE at this time. It is not a profitable company like it used to be, because this golden goose product is off the market. Now, it was a very slow drop ever since that news. A little rally since then, and then, it's a crazy drop since then, right? Of course, right? So, but, why didn't this thing just drop out at once on news like that? Now, basically, a lot of this company is forward-looking potential. Why did this company IPO at $60 per share? There's so many different questions you could ask, but a lot of AbCellera is forward-looking potential. So, on one little anecdotal news like that, you can't drop the entirety of the potential of this company. But yeah, ever since then, it absolutely did do detriments to the cash flows. So I would say, yeah, if you were trading AbCellera, this was absolutely a catalyst to sell the stock. Now, I am looking at generational opportunities here when I look at AbCellera as, a drug discovery company. So I personally did not sell, and of course, do I regret that? Yeah, in hindsight. Captain Hindsight, the South Park character, of course, but you see here, June 2023. So this was when the earnings came out. This is their Q2 update, and what we see here is an EPS beat. That means more tangible, profitable activity from the company. But we have a huge revenue miss here, and a lot of that has to do with missing projections on their drugs brought to the market, missing revenue on like maybe what projections they had on bamlanivimab. A lot to consider there, and that's obviously really not good to see when this company's been really good about being consistent on their revenues, especially over the last few earnings reports. So that was definitely a huge negative to spook the stock. Now, I really want to bring to everyone's attention that the XBI, the General Biotech Index, hasn't been doing that well. You take a look at this at the last 5 years. So AbCellera was December 2020, I believe, was the inception date of the company. So you can kind of just see how, biotech's done since then. Just biotech stocks in general have been taking a beater. Had like a huge rise ever since, CV-19 crisis. But ever since then, huge issues in the biotech sector. Definitely something to consider, that just, it's really one of those huge risk, huge reward sectors, but it's very fast alpha when it does happen. And it can also be very fast, losing of money. So, you can also, as fast as you can make money in the sector like this, you can lose money. So that's definitely something to be wary of. Now, what are some things going on? I was definitely taking a look at the earnings of AbCellera, and there's a lot of really interesting things. They're very forward about, they're not expecting any profitability from bamlanivimab anymore. Everything's all about, forward looking with the company and their products. Now, they are improving. They have more drug discovery partners. They have, more molecules in the clinic. These are good to see that kind of growth, since their last Q2 earnings report. However, I really would like to see more molecules in the clinic, because the rate at which a drug gets out of phase 1 with the FDA and gets all the way to FDA approval and marketability, it's something like 18%. It's not that high. So if we can play that numbers game a little bit better, that would be definitely nice, because AbCellera, as we do know, has that cash flow issue, is not profitable at this time. That's not a huge issue, because I'm going to go in more about the value investment side with the balance sheet here. The company did take on more debt. Obviously, we're not dealing with, ludicrous amounts of debt. We have tons of assets to deal with that. This is a company with over $900 million in cash. It even says there on the earnings report, liquidity. So there you go. Not too worried about that. And to some degree, you do need, debt can be useful, particularly low interest debt, low amount of debt in general. And debt does drive forward the company to an extent if you do have projects you want to drive forward on. And I will go in further depth about some of those projects later that AbCellera is working on. I think the tangible book value, this is really interesting. It's about $1 billion on the company right now for the tangible book value. So, when you're talking about a company trading at $1.7 billion, that's really close to book value. So getting really interested from a value investment perspective on this one for sure. But not too worried. Like what I'm trying to get at with when I glance at a balance sheet like this is I'm not seeing a completely distressed company at all. But definitely cash flow issues are screaming at me at this time, because we lost Manland and Bab so suddenly. Definitely something to keep in mind. Always look at these 3 financial statements, especially after quarterly reports. Just something for my viewers to keep in mind. This is just kind of like a sanity check video. I really hope you guys appreciate this. This is just kind of giving you guys a gestalt idea of just kind of how my mind thinks when I see crazy changes in price, and the kind of research I will kind of do, and just kind of to get a gestalt idea of what's going on with the stock at this time. Now, I am really happy to see these kind of signs. Tons of insider buying is going on with AbCellera at this time. Prime capital investment, making big stake buys. You got board members and CFOs are making big buys in AbCellera. More on that later. There could be any reason why people sell stock, right? I know Carl Hansen of AbCellera, he actually sold a ton of stock very recently, and this was actually well before I got into it. This was around this price. Carl Hansen sold around $144 million of stock around this price. Now, of course, this was before I entered the stock, and all this did was just drive the price lower for me to eventually buy it. So, of which I bought it around here, and then I bought it to around $9 cost basis. So Carl Hansen just kind of made his money, locked those profits in. I kind of totally understand that, especially recently, after IPO, a huge ludicrous increase in value of your company in a short period of time, like the run up of assets in the 2019-2020 markets, especially private market biotechs and IPO biotechs. With that being said, he locked in those profits, and now you see someone like him being actually more of a net buyer, and the CFO buying and all those things like prime capital hopping in. Carl Hansen, you see in May, acquiring more shares. Insiders, this article 1 month ago about more insiders buy more shares. Very exciting stuff for that aspect. And there could be any reason why people sell stock. They could sell, like I was saying, Carl Hansen probably just want to lock in some profits. Maybe he had some big personal housing project or personal charity he wanted to donate millions of dollars to. Who knows? Any reasons why someone could sell stocks, right? But there's only one reason why people would buy it, and that would be at some point in, buying the stock, buying the long perspective, buying the long position. At some point, they're expecting alpha. They're expecting that stock to go up. Thought there. This is Stock Twits. This is just kind of somewhere you can go to get some general Reddit type user sentiment. This is definitely not a very credible resource, but again, this is just a video kind of for these guys to just kind of if you just want some gestalt idea of what you think is going on with the stock and what you think, how you personally feel and you want to bounce some ideas off of your personal investment thesis, I think these are some good places to start. We already looked at the balance sheet, we looked at the earnings report, and now we're just kind of looking at some sentiment here. So, what's going on here? Yeah, the Vancouver facility, right? So we're going to talk about this later. They have a huge laboratory facility coming out to completion in around 2024. Yep, you got a huge dip. So this is what's really interesting to me too. We have an all-time low of 570 on this stock, I believe. Let me see if that held true. Yeah, so the 570 low is still intact. That's a low going out over a year, right here. So May of 2023, this is the last kind of time it was around these levels it's at right now. So yeah, me personally, I have been taking nibbles at this. I'm still very much long on this company. I always viewed this as a company, you just kind of view in the long perspective. It's very high risk, high reward investment. I understand that, and it's still ancillary. But I'm kind of considering, at these kind of levels, do I possibly move it more to ancillary core, kind of like a in between, and just really double down on this stock. So I'm just taking nibbles at it for now. As you can see, huge insider buys, 416K shares. We talked about that. But yeah, a lot of people are just picking up shares still. A lot of people are just kind of having the long perspective of the stock still, which I definitely respect. So very interesting stuff there. As we can see here, some changes in institutional ownership. Bailey Gifford had a huge buy at the end of June. And BlackRock just shed like 1% of their shares, but that's just some investment management type stuff. They operate at such huge levels, they have to kind of like sell because of liquidity and stuff like that. But yeah, as you can see, mostly people adding, if not more than anything else. But yeah, Thermopylae Capital, they've been one that's been huge about adding to this stock, still acquiring more and more. They have around like 5 to 10%, I believe. Yeah, more articles about insiders buying. And what's really interesting is Carl Hansen. He bought 2.3. I know he made that huge sale worth 144 million. It was around $25 per share. But you can see here, 2.3 million. Another putting in at $11.46 each. So he's definitely in the red on those, but Carl Hansen, he's still holding on all that. He hasn't like dumped or anything like that. He's still running the company, doing his thing. Still believes in it like I do, and as we all should. I definitely don't think this is a dead fish. Again, just giving you all the updates on everything, and I'm very transparent about. I hope I'm being very transparent about how much it does suck that we did lose the Bamland revenue. And how there hasn't been any relief as far as a generalized index as well. So definitely taking some hits on that. So as you can see here, buying the company today for about 30 price of sales. Don't have a profitable company, unfortunately. But what is interesting is, still have the strong cash position of around over 900 million. So we look at the book values per share. Really interesting. You can buy this today at 1.4 book value per share. So have never had an opportunity like that on this stock ever. Even when you go back to like May when it was trading at 570, the last time it was trading at 570 because of the way the ratios adjusted. This is the lowest opportunity essentially we've had to buy, closest to book value. So really interesting about this stock. I love to use this website ticker to kind of like compare valuations and things of that nature. Really great source. I'd recommend anyone use this. Another great resource for supplementing. Never ever the backbone of your research. But I did look at some YouTube videos. This guy's videos, Nanalyze, definitely check him out. Loved this research. Had a great video about this stock. Talked a lot here about how much it sucked losing bamlanivimab, losing that and then it's like, what is the future of the company going to look like now, right? So what is the company going to look like now that we lost bamlanivimab? What is the future in AbCellera? Now, of course, that would be our future products coming to market. So he made this little figure here, and I think this is great. Now, I just want to keep in mind, while this did XTX this out, this is to represent us losing bamlanivimab. This doesn't mean we lost Lilly as a partner. Lilly, this doesn't mean that, AbCellera Biologics will never ever do work with Eli Lilly ever again. No, that's not what this means. But this is what we're looking at. This is the future of AbCellera Biologics, and it's really just some like neurology products, Alzheimer's products, some cancer products, and one of them, about 14% of our market is in this animal health product. So it's not nothing too exciting. But what I really would like to see of course, the Analyze did point out this as well, is, we really want to see more growth. It's like, look at, from 2021 to 2022, didn't really add that many programs, unfortunately. And then it's just kind of unfortunate where we're seeing, like, you break it down, you consider, like, 14% of this is in animal health, and then, 43 of this pipeline comes from like research that is really just like mouse research. It's high level mouse research, yes, that is very like human gene expressive mice that are bred to be that way. However, really like 28% of this is really just the clinical pipeline that we're extremely interested in when we actually like break this down, and some other things we want to talk about here. So it's really, when we retrace to this diagram back here, we can really get it understanding of why these are the ones that are, the huge products we're advertising that are more likely to release and further in the pipeline. Because like, Denali and Teva, these are companies that we've been working with since 2016, 2018, early 2019. So, when we see we see this, like, Teva and Denali on here in phase 1, it's because we've been working with them for a few years. So really great of Nanalyze to express all this to us. These stats from Nanalyze here, like I was talking about earlier, about 18.5% of drugs that make it from phase 1 are actually going to go like market authorization from the FDA, go fully all the way to the market. So the fact we only have a couple from AbCellera, that's kind of disheartening. And it really goes to that thesis that, he's saying that, this is more or less of numbers game. One other thing I want to point out really quickly that Nanalyze pointed out is this ARC research article. This is Pierce Jameson. He's more likely than not probably in the genomic side of ARC Invest. ARKG, he probably does a lot of analyst research for that fund, if I'm to guess, but he's certainly under ARC Invest research. And he was talking about how the AI models are really good for identifying target candidate molecules. However, they aren't particularly good at predicting future synthesizability, toxicity, or selectivity. So that's something we got to really keep in mind with like AI drug discovery. Is it's an industry that's going through some issues as far as trying to figure out organic issues, bringing issues from the AI, from the computer to the organic real life. So perhaps innovations in the AI as well as overall biotechnology, organic chemistry, all that can be made, and that would expedite that process certainly. So I thought this Nanalyze statistic was also really interesting here. The average antibody drug takes between approximately 9.4 and 12 years from initiation to approval. So really keep that in mind that if we can bring that number down too with these expedited growth rates that this industry is supposed to see and things of that nature, I think that would be huge for the industry. So there is still upsides in this whole stock. I'm just trying to be very upfront, clear, and concise that there are reasons why the stock is down. It does make a lot of sense, and this always was a high risk, high reward stock to me. It still is, even to this day. So keeping chugging it along on our little gestalt analysis here. As Thermopylae, as we were talking about earlier, this is just some more insights on who's buying the stock. And as you see, Thermopylae holding's been all over this lately. But there are very legit players who are interested in AbCellera. This is not just, and it's actually it's quite like this is definitely more of an institutional holding company in the 1.7 billion. It covers this market cap. Most of this is institutional money. So very interesting about AbCellera, just kind of like the state it's in right now and the opportunities that we have as retail shareholders who've had opportunity in the stock since December of 2020. However, obviously not buying at those prices, buying at much lower prices. The opportunity that can bring for future returns when you look out to 2025, 2030, as a limitless long, shareholder of the stock. So you see Peter Thiel here. The AbCellera ownership of Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel has not gone anywhere. still owns a considerable amount of his money, about $85 million of the dude's wealth. So definitely really interesting there. This is a significant investment in him for sure. Definitely, AbCellera Biologics definitely crosses Peter Thiel's mind every now and then for sure. So I I would not be too surprised that dude is still grinding out some work on that, and this is just more proof of that essentially. So Carl Hansen, yeah, Carl Hansen's still all over the stock. He did have that huge sale. This is 6,000 units, about $144 million. Back in June 10th of 2021, before we were ever really talking about this here on the Zoomer Value Investor channel. So, yeah, he's a net buyer of the stock, of course, now. You see him buying, like, options here. Really interesting, the price he's buying these options at. Delta on those must be interesting. So, yeah, I mean, you can see the filing date here. But, yeah, he had that huge sale. Really just locked in his wealth after the IPO. I'm not really too surprised at that sale, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised if he was selling at those prices a little more. Okay, we don't have data on that. Very interesting. Okay. So, yeah, Carl Hansen, of course, that sale was June. He locked it in around here. Yep, right on this, this might have been a technical thing. He was probably watching the support, to be honest, which is really interesting, when you break this down. But yeah, he probably was watching for that March 26th support of $24 there, and when that broke here in June, that's when Peter Thiel sold not Peter Thiel, Carl Hansen, the CEO of AbCellera Biologics, sold $144 million at the time worth of that stock. So he's of course a net buyer. His last significant purchase was, as we addressed earlier, a couple $1 million, around the $11 per share range. I hope this was somewhat comforting for the viewers here. And of course, this was supposed to be a supplemental video to my other couple videos on AbCellera. This one right here, the drug discovery video, the tech and tailwinds video, and then of course the full analysis video from about a year ago. So this is supplemental. It's just supposed to supplement the already present information on those videos. I just hope that this kind of gives y'all a bit of clarity and some insight into kind of how I think as the story changes. Because as value investors, as Peter Lynch disciple investors, what we really like to do is generate an investment thesis, and we'll have to see how that plays out. And based on actions that play out in the thesis, we make decisions whether to buy, sell, or hold, and we continually do that. And where I'm at this stock, at this right now, I have an ancillary position of about 1% of my portfolio in AbCellera Biologics ABCL stock. And I would be willing I'm currently nibbling at this stock, and I'm considering moving it to about a 3%, and if it goes any lower, to about book value, which would be about $4 per share, I would bump that holding up to about 5% of my portfolio. And if it goes any lower from that, and this is of course on no negative particular news changes, if everything's going consistent with like the development of the AbCellera lab, of course we're going to do the lab in Vancouver. Go images here. This is supposed to go live in 2024. This new manufacturing site, you can find articles about this. So if everything's staying consistent with the story, essentially, then I have no choice but to even buy more, even if it goes to around like $3 per share, which should be like below book value, which should be like 0.8 book value or something like that. That's just the discipline of value investing. Everything just depends on your perspective, what you do as an investor. And please keep in mind that I'm a high risk threshold investor. Like, I am willing to come out here and say this is a bit of a moonshot. This is, yes, I did do a good amount of background research. I have looked into this, but it's very much something that could multi-bag, or it's something that could go to zero essentially, or I lose a significant amount of my investment. On one note of ending the video, some really interesting things. So Recursion Pharmaceuticals, this has been a really interesting company I came across that has had a very similar story to AbCellera. Very similar industry, AI drug discovery, very overpriced IPO, about 4 to 5 months after AbCellera. And as you can see now, we have opportunity to buy this stock at let's see, about 68% below its IPO price. So very interesting. I'm gonna do some research into this company. I also just saw this on the tab here, so I'm gonna go ahead and click on it. Palantir Technology. This is a company I've been involved in. This one got little under I'm not gonna say but let's say 3%. It's about 3% of my portfolio right now. Currently, I have about a $10 cost per share average on this guy, and a really interesting software company. I kind of want to do a full analysis on this one. If this one goes below my cost basis, I would consider bumping this one up in my portfolio as well. Like no negative news changes, only positive news changes, positive tailwind news changes, etc. And that's kind of what just ending the video. That's kind of what I'm seeing with AbCellera, right? I'm looking for that thesis of, yes, you can drive the artificial value of the stock lower. Of course, we go see on ticker terminal, if the market wants to drive the book value, the price of book value down to 0.8, 0.7, and that would be half of 0.7, that would be a $3 stock price, $2.50 stock price. However, I would be willing to do it if nothing has changed negative about the story of AbCellera Biologics. If everything's going fine about their research and things of that nature. And just keep in mind, this is a very forward-looking cash generating company anyway. And I don't want to be too optimistic on the sense that, yes, they did, through emergency authorization, bring a tried and true product with to market. But as the criticism that Nanalyze and I mentioned, we really need to see a lot more numbers being brought to the market, a lot more products in general. At least getting to phase one. It's proven to be a bit of a slow industry because of the things that the gentleman from ARK Invest talked about, and it's really hard to price this industry because the growth could get, if those, for example, those 9 years that we're seeing it taking to get something into phase one from the drug discovery inception, those 9 years or so, with AI and the advancements we're seeing, those could quickly become, a half-life down to 4.5 years. And then those 4.5 years could quickly come down to a half-life of 2.25 years. And then those 2.25 years quickly come down to a half-life of 1.12 years. I'm kind of more looking towards 2030, and I'm trying to even be ahead of the forward future mechanisms of the market on this one, and I'm trying to get all that upside with that. So honestly, this is a little bit of a far-fetched prediction, but by the time 2030 rolls around, that'll be about 7 years from this video's date. I wouldn't be too surprised that this stock is at minimum testing one of these all-time highs here of this resistance of about $39-$40 on the stock, or about this $60 price, this $58-$60 price from the IPO price. So we'll see on that. Only time will tell. 7 years from now, it could be even broken through those resistances by then. But again, I'm trying to be even ahead of the forward future looking mechanism on this one, and that's really hard to do on these biotechs, but huge risk rewards on that for sure. And another really interesting one, I'm going to go ahead and type it in, is Intelia. We're going to talk about this one on some future videos, so please stay tuned. Please subscribe if you're really interested in biotechnology stocks, really interesting med tech stocks. This stock has a ton to do with CRISPR technologies, those gene editing technologies. Those are something you're familiar with. So please stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching my video on AbCellera Biologics. This has been the Zoomer Value Investor, signing off. Peace.